Hello, 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 beautiful unicorns. Yana Kasperczak coming to you live from Ontario, all by my lonesome today. One of the guests was unable to make it today, and unfortunately, and I decided, you know what? I'm gonna do it myself once again, because if I promise you I'm gonna do an episode live every Thursday, if somebody else can't make it, I will be here. But also an FYI, I try to lure my daughter in to do an interview here with me where the questions that I ask all of my guests that I would be asking her, and she wouldn't have heads up in preparation for any of these questions. And in doing so, I also thought, my next time slot available will be in July, whatever July after the 11th is of the Thursday. And since we're going to be at the cottage, perhaps I might even lure my sister in and interview my sister and my daughter at the same time with the same questions. And obviously they'll take turn, because I don't think it will be fair for one person to always have a little bit of time to think on their responses, meaning if they answer in second, or I'll figure out how I'll do it. I might be like, okay, different questions for different ladies here. So today I thought would be, I guess, a great way to allow me to come in and share my journey of becoming, since I have not done a direct episode like this and have not used any of the questions myself. I've thought of them, created them, and then after that didn't really answer them. And even as the guests are answering, I don't really think about my own responses, because I'm listening to what they're saying and taking in what's in that message for me. I'm literally listening to their responses as if they're meant to be for me, to take notes and jot things down, to not only go deeper into some of these responses, some of these questions, but to also see the lesson that they're sharing, and perhaps that I might be connecting some dots on some things. So this is actually why, or this series of Your Journey of Becoming podcast was born, because I got to a point in my career where I was wondering if I even wanted to keep going, and if it's even possible to get to some of these levels that I want to get to in my own personal life and in business. And having these conversations with these women on the podcast, and of course outside the podcast, has been nothing short of incredible, where I got to learn so much that I found myself getting my shit together in so many more areas of my life than I already was at that particular moment. And this is what I hope these series encourages each and every one of you to do, is to actually do. Yes, we are human beings, but in order for us to be, we must do. Meaning, be. What does that being part means to you? If life was a Sims games, or Sims game, games mean for each and every individual, but for you, it's a Sims game, one game. You are the main character in a Sim game. You chose the character, you chose your avatar, and now you gotta choose where you want to live, how you want to live, what kind of a person you want to be, because you get to choose your characters and traits and all these different things. I haven't played Sims in so long, but my daughter plays it once in a while, and it really reminds me of how, if you can find and figure out a way how you can hack the Sims game that you're playing, what would the areas of your life would you want to hack? Meaning you want to have them almost like snap of the finger. I say almost because it's still not going to happen without you actually doing something. And the idea for me came from my daughter at one point was able to use some kind of hack in the Sims game where she had access to pretty much everything and anything she wanted, including unlimited money. And that made me think, we all have that access, that ability. We just need to figure out how to get there. It wasn't just like, you go here and you push a button for her to get access to these things. It was, you do this, you do this, you do this. There was a process. And a couple of times she lost that access and she had to regain it. You in your life, you have gotten to a place where everything felt perfect, and then you lost that. And then you found it again. And you lost it again. This is what life is about as well. So now, because I said I'm going to be asking these same questions of myself and sharing the responses, I'm going to start right from the beginning, where I talk about, because this is the podcast called Get Your Shit Together, where today you do get to be with myself, Yana Kasperczak, where I don't talk about just the surface level shit. I don't, try to make anything seem other than what I see it as or what I believe it to be. Now, keeping in mind, my beliefs are not the same as yours. The way that I see and understand and interpret things are not the same as yours. And on top of that, I want to add is that that's the best thing that you can have in your life, is have difference of opinions, have difference of beliefs, have difference of how you see and perceive things, and difference of experiences as well, because that's the shit you learn from. You learn from different. You don't learn from the same. The same things will keep you the same. And it instantly makes me think of a swamp, because if every swamp perhaps started off as a big lake or maybe an ocean, right? And a little by little it shrinks, or maybe even had a river in it and it shrinks, but a swamp becomes stale because it doesn't have much new being added to it unless there's lots of rain or some other way that the water gets added to it. And the swamp will stay a swamp, and it'll just fester and it get worse and worse, and there's going to be so much more bacteria that can even definitely will make a human sick if you drink without taking care of that water in the proper way. And with us humans, this is where we find ourselves when we continue to stay in the same place, in this safe zone, in a comfort zone, that you find yourself terrified, petrified, or perhaps even paralyzed to take action towards something that you think and feel or even believe you want. Forgetting that nobody actually is there but you, stopping you from it. And that part of you that is doing its best to stop you from going outside the comfort zone is that part of you that in my coaching is referred to as the inner critic, as that imposter voice, as that voice of the gremlin. And the interesting part is, because I like asking questions, is I want to ask you a question. When did that voice show up for you in your life? When did you start hearing it? Because it does appear at one point. Some of you might not really know exactly when. Some of you do. But you have some kind of an estimate of when that might have been. Were you a preteen? Were you a teen? Was it in your 20s? I like to call them, because 20s were still a bunch of teenagers. I mean, 30s, 40s, many people are still teenagers. Look at the people that you know. Look at people that you see, how they talk, how they communicate, how they take things personally, how they behave. No, not much different than teenagers. And then you see those who are actually now adulting. And big part of adulting is taking responsibility for oneself, of how you show up. So the question that I like to begin with is, on this journey that everybody's on, when did you realize the life that you were living wasn't actually yours and began getting your shit together? Now, for me, it's actually, those are two separate journeys. Because for me, realizing that the life I was living wasn't mine did not mean that I took action right then and there and begun to get my shit together. That was just the realization part, when I realized. And that is honestly when we had our second child. That's when I started to realize that the life that I was living wasn't mine, because I still am a good girl, just not in the same way as I used to. I realized I was putting everything and everyone first, all their feelings, emotions, their dreams, their goals, and that includes parents. I'd love to know how many of you, and you have to be honest with yourself. And you know when you're being honest and when you're being dishonest. And then at the same time, some of you are really good liars at this point, that you've lied to yourself so much that you don't even know if what you're saying is true. I have been there. I have done that. And it takes a minute, takes a second to hear the truth of yourself. But how many of you are still trying to prove to your parents? Or what's the word? See, I don't even remember what the word is. It's like when you're doing things and you're for your parents and you want them to be proud of you. How many of you actually still living that way, where you're seeking your parents' approval? There you go. I have stopped seeking my parents' approval when I really discovered that I wasn't living the life that was mine. And that was after our son was born. And I ended up going on antidepressants. Knowingly, I was ignoring part of my higher coach's voice. I was ignoring her voice. And she was telling me that you got this. You can do this on your own. You don't need this magic pill that's not actually going to do what you imagine it's going to be. Because in my mind, I literally, because I was so tired, I was so exhausted physically, mentally, emotionally, that I just wanted a fairy, if you will, in the form of a farmer of the pharmaceuticals, to come in and literally that everything, the veil would be lifted. I would not feel so glum or gloomy and zombie-like, that I would feel alive again, that I would find zest, that I would feel joy again, thinking that everything was going to get fixed if I took this one little pill. I think it was once or twice a day. I don't even remember. And it didn't. That was my attempt of trying to get my shit together. We're all trying to get our shit together in different ways. So recognizing when I caught myself and realized that I wasn't living the life that was actually mine was different from when I actually begun to get my shit together and make that life mine again, once and for all. And I believe that's a journey that continues to keep going. Like, getting our shit together doesn't just end with washing dishes once today. You might have to wash them again before bed, and that's part of getting the shit together. So that was one of my solutions. Another solution was I need to busy myself by going and doing things. And I did that. And I found some friends that are no longer friends anymore, and learned so much. And that was part of it. Then it was go by yourself, go do this, go take this course, this program, learn this, learn that. And it was literally everything that came into my awareness that pulled me in and contained a little bit of fear in it, and yet a glimpse of light. I somehow chose to look at the light and ignore that fear. And in some areas, I wasn't able to do that. Of course, because we can't do everything at once, right? Those are the things that I wasn't ready for at that particular given moment in time. But after have gone through this journey or this path or this this program or this course, that I begun to really understand myself in ways that I didn't before. And that's where then it will bring me to the next question is that I like to ask. What version of you, of me, had to die so that the woman that I am today can actually finally live and be here. And there were many, many, many versions of me that had to die and I said goodbye to. But the one, and there's so many of them that stand out. I think the one that stands out the most is one of the not realizations, but we have realizations over the same thing time and time and time again, but it comes through in different words and different phrases. So we now have a deeper understanding, a deeper vocabulary of how we can explain this particular thing. And what I would say is the version of me that finally I had to let go of, and I did let go of, is looking beyond my own pain and my own suffering and not being stuck here. And here's what came from that and when that happened. That happened actually on, some of you know, some of you might be listening to me or coming across me for the first time, so you might not know this, but when my husband and I were 22 years old, and we're born the same month, the same year, so you can imagine how fun the journey has been. In the month of May, Taurus is as well, and the year of a tiger. So it's definitely been a growing journey for the two of us. And when we were 22 years old, and I was 22 weeks pregnant, we lost our twin girl pregnancy. And for 15 years, I just focused on my own pain and my own suffering with that path. Not, of course, entirely. I'm the kind of person, not only a good girl, not only a people pleaser, not only an empath, but I am an optimist at heart, and I'm someone who wants to make sure that everybody in my life is happy and that and that the hurt ends with me. So, of course, I try to ask if we can talk about it, and that's not something that everybody is open to talking about. I'm referring to my husband after this loss. So the reason why it took me 15 years to finally see that version of me and allow that version of me to die was because on their 15th birthday, I was finally ready to look at the pictures that we had on the CDs. And prior to that, I simply was not ready to look at the pictures of our twin girls. Sasha and Alexis were their names. And for the first time, and this is where, like, if you have pictures you can look at, even of yourself when you were going through that time, you see yourself in such a different way now than you did back then. So for the first time, I didn't even see myself in the pictures. I saw my husband. And I remembered how he was the one that was driving behind the ambulance and chasing the ambulance and staying behind while I was in the back. And I can't even imagine what was going through his head. Some things, of course, we talked and he shared with me, but other things, there's so much more that we don't talk about and we don't share. So for me, that was the version that I have already been working on, not seeing other people's pain, because this is how I've always lived. That's what I refer to as the emotional intelligence, the gift that I have been given. But seeing it in a very different way, and not just seeing it, but then recognizing that now really taking that step, the uncomfortable step of being who I am for my clients in my house. And that means asking those questions that I might not want to know the answer to, or those questions that the other person is not yet ready to answer, because they themselves have been avoiding answering those questions. And at the same time, when you see the person struggling, it is your job as a partner your person, when you see your person struggling and going through a hard time, even if you're going through a hard time, to just for a minute or two, put yourself on the back burner. Yes, there's nothing wrong with putting yourself on the back burner. Just don't leave yourself there. It's like, okay, well, let me see how I can help if I can, because in helping, then I might feel helped as well. Because this exchange has to happen, and it needs to be fair and equal, where if I am recognizing that you have a need and I'm here to fill your need, you must do the same in return. That's partnership. And if you do not, and if you are the one continuously giving and giving and giving, number one, I want you to pause and really sit down and be honest with yourself. How true is that really? Are you really, really, truly the only one that keeps giving? Is your partner not giving you anything in return whatsoever? Maybe not in the way that you want them to. And this is where, no matter how long you've been together, you know each other's love language. And your job is to give love in the language that your partner understands. And their job to give love to you in the way that you understand love, in the way that you want to receive love. And there's 5 different love languages. There's personal touch, there's quality time, there is gifts, there is words of affirmation, and then there is what's acts of service. When you know your partner's love language, don't deny them that. And if you want them to give you love in the way you want to receive it, in the way that you were designed to receive it, you can't expect the other person to change before you do, which means that you're the one that has to suck it up and do the thing that's uncomfortable, and perhaps give the love to your partner in the way that they want to receive it, which might not be comfortable to you, whatever that means or looks like to you. And being open to conversation. So for me, that was the version of me that had to die, is the one that was still seeing herself as a victim and needed a little bit more of a reminder that all of us are victims. All of us go to level 1 energy, where we feel like everything is happening to us. I can't, I don't want to, I don't feel like it. I'm not worthy, I'm not enough, I'm not good enough. All of us have that voice. Each and every one of us. But just because somebody responds from level 2 energy, where they come across and appear to be strong and tough, and they get loud and they speak up for themselves, does not mean that they're not still in that victim level, where they're actually hurting. And if you just pause for a moment and put yourself out of the equation, as if somebody else is here and witnessing your person, your friend, your loved ones be hurting, that you actually pause and see how can you help and support them without taking that as an opportunity to perhaps potentially cause more harm. So the next question I'd like to ask is, what biggest lie were you living that felt normal until it broke you? I would say that connects right to the days where I realized I wasn't living my life. And that was the biggest lie, that I was living, believing and feeling with most of my being that, how do I explain it? It's like, you know how we all have this ladder, this staircase, that imaginary, that in order for us to be successful and be seen as successful or worthy of, breathing in air on this planet, taking up space, that we must go up these steps that lead to somewhere, right? But it's go to school, get this diploma, get that diploma, go to college, and then you gotta have a job, and then you gotta have a boyfriend, then you get engaged, then you get married, then you get a house, then you have one child, two children, for some more, I'm okay with two, and then level up in your career and all of these different things and have pets and go and enjoy life. It's a great structure, but it's not for everyone. And it felt like it's not that I would have lived and followed a different path. I still know that I followed my path, but it still didn't feel like it was entirely 100% my choice. Does that make sense? And if it doesn't make sense, it will later. When you begin to awaken and realize that the life that you're living is not entirely yours, that little by little, all these seeds that have been given to you throughout your entire life by people that you know, by people that you don't know, by people that you watch or listen to, and you don't even know what seed that's going to give you. How many conversations do you think you've had with people when they shared something they were scared of, and now you became scared of that same thing, or you became nervous about that same thing? Meanwhile, you've never even had that experience in your life. I'll give you one example for me, and I recognize it really quickly. And this is an example that I always go back to that reminds me of when the fear that comes up, is it mine, is it not? And that to me becomes the example. An example is this, is I had one woman that I work with. She shared one of these fears that she realized she had driving between two big transport trucks on the highway, right? Between these, and she was sharing that fear with me, and I've driven between them, and to me, it was more like, what do you call them? Fast and the Furious kind of a moment where you're like driving in a tunnel. To me, it wasn't scary. But after she shared that with me, I caught myself next time I was going between just even one of these big trailer trucks and the divider between the highways and the other, I realized that I felt fear. And I'm like, that's not mine. I've never been scared. And I instantly remember where that came from. Most of the fears you're carrying are not even your own fears, because you've never even done it. You've never even tried it. Skydiving. I'm scared of skydiving. And this is where I also recognize, yes, it's not necessarily my fear, but in many ways it is my fear because I have fallen from great heights, if you will. And falling hurts, yes, but you don't die. And at the same time, I've seen enough scary things to now have a different attitude. And as an attitudinal coach, I understand a thing or two about attitude. Your attitude will either make you or break you. And I'm saying it without a smile because this is the truth. This is the reality. That was essentially my biggest lie as well, is that outside of me, my attitude outwardly was filtered. It was very positive. It was sunshine and rainbows. But the reality wasn't so much so. I was primarily living in level 1 energy where things were happening to me. Remember, I'm going through a really dark time here. At a point where I even had a flashback a couple of weeks ago of that I obviously was not ready to remember until when I remembered it, standing in front of the cupboard where we had all the medicines, and that was the way that I saw myself going. And luckily, I heard the voice. We all hear voices. We're not crazy. Not too much, but a little bit, right? That told me there's more. That you want to see your children grow up. You want to see your grandkids. Heck, you want to see your great-grandkids. And who's to say you can't? So we all have these moments where we realize that the life that we're living is not ours, that we're chasing some imaginary tale, if you will, of what we believe our life will be like if we do this or if we do that. But most people are not even doing this or that. They're not even spending time imagining what their life will be like because they're too stuck in the past, and they can't get past that past. And what's crazy is that, or more like what's interesting, is that how many of us end up making something that was a shitty experience in our life. Whether, for me, whether it was losing the twins, whether it was being told to go to work after the loss, even though I gave birth to the girls and was entitled to maternity leave, by the way, was not told that going back to work, whether it was also losing my grandmother before the twins that I could not see, and my husband losing his grandfather right after the twins, and the sheer fact that the twins were able to be buried in his grandfather's feet because his grandfather had no legs. He lost them. And it's just interesting how life works out. So whatever it is that we are grieving through and from, I refer to this as also as baggage. I was giving this example actually to my daughter, and I think that will make sense to you, because getting your shit together, this is really what it's all about, is throughout your life, you've been through some shit. Some you remember, others you do not. They come back to you later as flashbacks, and you're like, oh my God, how could I have hidden that from myself and blocked that out for myself? And that's how miraculous your mind is. How many of those things do you think it blocked out from you, for you? And then allows you to have those flashbacks if you're doing the work, actually. Most people will not have those flashbacks because they're too busy being busy. And being busy, it's good and it's bad, depending on the busying part and if it's for you, for something, or someone else. So regardless, you're going to go through a lot of turmoil in your life, and it's not over. You just learn how to grow through it more gracefully and see the light even during the darkest times. So what you've done throughout your life is, I want you to imagine a really big luggage suitcase, right? And it can even have the straps that you can wear as a backpack. So I want you to imagine that. And now imagine one of those, let's be, easy on the math. Let's say one per year. So how many of these heavy luggages are you now carrying that you have never unpacked? It's like when you go on vacation and you have clothes, you have souvenirs that you brought back, that now you have to find a place for the souvenir in your home. And so you go on vacation, you bring it back. Do you really leave that luggage and not unpack it? Of course you're going to unpack it. You're going to go through it. You're going to put where everything belongs and find place for these new things, for these new memories and experiences, right? In your life, that baggage that you're carrying, why are you not doing the same thing? I'll tell you why. Because you never learned that the importance of it and the process of it. And the process of it is not the same for everyone. It's not one size fits all. It's a little bit different. It's essentially, one size fits all, but it has some stretch to it, or it needs to have some stretch to it to allow that to become mold for me. Yana's mold for you. So when the time comes, you know how to work through this baggage, and you're no longer even carrying a suitcase. You just have a small backpack that you put these things in, that you're dealing with, that you're working through and with, to deal with ASAP. And it's not always when you feel like it. Now, if you could imagine each one of those luggages and each one of those bags that you're carrying, for everything that you went through in that particular year, because let's be honest, some years were tougher than others. But if you could imagine that for everything that you've experienced that particular year that you can remember, now what about the things that you can't remember, which probably doubling it up, if we're being honest here, that each one of those experiences is a brick or a stone. Not a small little rock, not a pebble, but a decent size rock or a brick. And you keep carrying it, keep carrying it. Once in a while you put it down, but you never let go. You're always holding on to it. No wonder you're now physically hurting in your body. Did you know that unhealed grief, unhealed trauma will create physical pain in your body? And also will create disease in the body. That's why every disease is linked to dis-ease, which is stress. Pay attention to the questions your medical professionals are asking you. Pay attention. One of them is going to be either directly worded, have you experienced more stress in your life? There's going to be the word stress in there. Or indirectly, they're going to be asking if you're dealing with a lot more things now lately. Another way of saying, how stressed are you? That is the root cause of majority of things. The fact that you feel like your life is out of control is a direct result of that as well. So then how do you get to the other side? You make a list. You already know what to do. You just need to make a list of the things that you got to do. And then do the scariest thing ever. Do them. Simple. Yet it's not. And if you want help, I always say doing this alone, not only is it not fun, but it is much more harder than doing it with someone else. And if you know, it does not have to be me. There's so many people out there that you resonate with, that you feel like they can help you on your journey. Some of them, they can help you, how do I put it? With some of these people, you might, here's how I'll put it. In my experience, I've had people that I knew they were going to help me and get me to that next level. And some of them stayed with me for many of those levels, while others were here for a short period of time. So what I'm saying is that some of these people, they're going to help you regardless. Even if it's just a short period of time, they're going to help you. But only if you're actually doing the work. Only if you're doing the work. If you're not doing the work, then nothing will change. No amount of, if you're wasting your time just having conversations, and I was that client myself, and I've had clients like that, and I still have clients like that. And this is the journey they're on right now. I want you to really think about it in the way that I started thinking about it. When you invest, one of, or actually three of the hardest things for you to invest, the hardest one is going to be energy. Usually you don't think about that when you're investing into working with someone. The hardest thing will be to invest energy, you actually doing the work, you showing up, you being present, you being open, and you being honest. Energy. Time is the second hardest thing that you're going to be giving and investing in yourself. Investing that time. And the third hardest thing is going to be money. Most of you money is the one that's going to be the hardest for you to invest, but more often than not, let's be honest, if you look in your life, you throw money at things to have problems solved and fixed, no problem. What makes this any different? The reason, or what usually makes it different, is because most of you are going to be good girls. You don't see your own self-worth and value. And because of that, you don't think and you don't believe that you're worth that financial investment into yourself, which is not only just into yourself. It's going to be, you will notice a change in your people around you, because when you start changing, your energy, your vibe changes, your attitude changes, people around you will change as well. Mark my words. Ask anyone that has worked with me or knows me. that it will rub off on them as well. So, but if nothing changes, nothing changes. Next question is, what was my enough is enough moment when I knew that I either had to change or stay stuck? For me, the one that I remembered, and then the one that I blacked out. The one that I blacked out that I already shared earlier was the one that I was standing in front of the cupboard, because my plan was to take all the meds that were in there. And at that point, we had different ones. I was going to doctors, and I realized that there's a big difference between a doctor and a drug dealer. And I had a drug dealer. Because if you go to a doctor with a problem and the first solution is to give you a drug, that's a drug dealer, that's not a doctor. So I've had a drug dealer, I had a doctor. Now I barely go to one, but he's somewhere in between, where it is usually one of the first solutions. But finding a family doctor is really challenging here in Ontario. And so here we are. Now I've learned to speak up for myself and say no thank you. So for me, like I said, there was that moment, but because it was blacked out, that wasn't the moment that I really remembered. The moment that I really remembered was walking up. I want to say it was like the fifth or like the seventh step, as I'm walking up the stairs, and I'm just about, it might have even been right after the cabinet, and that's why I don't remember that cabinet. I just remember walking up the stairs, and I just felt defeated and relieved at the same time. And I'm sure it would make sense to those of you who have been there, where it's like you finally are able to put words to something, and yet those words you feel they deflate you. You feel defeated because of those words. And those words for me were, I am not just a mother. And I'm not just a stay-at-home mother. Really, that's what it was. And I just kept repeating it, and it just collapsed on those stairs, and I cried. I don't even know for how long. And that was the moment when I really remember just numbing myself, but numbing myself with things that were actually helpful and beneficial, that now I refer to as hacks. And here's how I was numbing myself. I would put my headphones in, and I would listen to motivational speeches. Tony Robbins, Les Brown, even Dean Graziosi. Now he's a business partner with Tony Robbins. And there were quite a few others. Neville Goddard, Jim Rohn, some of the older ones as well. And just so I could hear things and I can make more connections of the shit that I was carrying in my luggage and my baggage. Because if we don't know what's in there, our tendency is to hold on to things because we don't like to lose things. So we hold on to certain versions of ourselves that we feel like we need, when the reality is we do not. We can look at our past. We're meant to look at our past fondly, where no matter what you went through, that you're grateful and you're joyful looking back at your past. Yes, of course, you can have moments of sadness, moments. And then after that moment passes, you can feel joy again because you're here and you get to experience many more of these things. So that was my enough is enough moment, where I talk about the pain and gain matrix, and at the core, really what it comes down to, and it's a process that I take women that I work with through. There's 4 steps, but really at the core of it, the best way I can explain it is how I really understand it in the simplest form possible. All of us, we get an opportunity to come to a place where the pain of staying the same becomes greater than the pain of change. And that is when we really change. Because prior to that, we haven't experienced enough pain, enough suffering staying the same. So we feel the pain and suffering that we imagine we will experience, which, by the way, 80% of things that we imagine never actually even come true. And the 20% of things that we imagine, like things that we worry and scared about, and 20% of them do, but always work out better. Like they even come to fruition in a better way than you imagined it was possible. So worrying about things that will never happen, and you're imagining that future, and that feels painful, much more painful than you staying the same. But when you get to a place when that scale shifts, that you now no longer so scared of the future, but you're more scared of the present staying the way that it is, and that becoming your hamster wheel and just getting worse and worse and worse progressively. So that's when people really change. And that's where I realized that's what it really truly was, is that the pain of staying the same became, and the suffering of staying the same became intolerable. That I made a conscious choice to show up for myself in the ways that weren't comfortable. And one of the biggest ways that was not comfortable, and I kept doing it, even though I honestly, and I don't even know why or how or what possessed me or what kept me going and kept me coming back and showing up. But it was initially started as live videos. I was working for a network marketing company that is no longer in business, by the way, or they changed names and moved. And anyway, so I got to learn so much from that experience, and it opened up so many doors for me that I didn't even know were there. And I wouldn't change that for anything whatsoever. And that's where then I little by little stumbled upon one thing and another, and then there's coaching, and then I can become a coach, and which one, because now there's options. And it was already, I was going through a law of being programmed, that I hired a coach to go through with me, and I decided that that was going to be the coach training program that I was going to go into. And it taught me so much that I needed to know, that I've been applying into my personal life ever since, and I still continue to do so. I believe all of us are capable of unimaginable greatness, but we hold ourselves back way more than necessary, and way more than even should be considered realistic. I went for a walk with my husband. We go for walks every single day now, pretty much, which reminds me, I gotta make him ice cream, because I promise for every walk he takes me, I'll make him a tub of ice cream, a healthy one with protein. And he told me now I owe him 6 tubs of ice cream, because he's taking me for 6 walks. So I gotta uphold my promise here. So we walk through the graveyard. And for me, it's been a while since I've walked through a graveyard. I think the last time was when we buried the twins. And it wasn't even a walk. I just remember collapsing and seeing everything through my tears. And even though the grass was really, really green, I remember that. And watching the white casket being lowered into the ground, that's the moment where my legs give out. So that was the last time that I remember being in the graveyard. But walking through one was when we went to see my grandfather, which was back in Russia, and I must have been just like 5 years old, maybe even 7, like really young. And I just remember being there and how peaceful it felt. But the reason why I bring up the backyard now here in this enough is enough moment response, I wanted to share with you how I see and understand graveyards. As walking through it, I even said to my husband out loud, how many people do you think in this graveyard alone, or even in this here area alone, have been buried with unachieved, unrecognized dreams and potentials. How many dreams are buried here? How many inventions that the world will never get to see because those people decided, consciously or unconsciously, decided and chose not to follow their own dreams, their own calling, or their own ideas, their own inspirations, but that they have chosen to follow a program, to be a good, obedient girl, boy, and give and give and give to others, and never give to yourself, or not give to yourself enough, not follow your own heart song, not live the life that you were meant to build yourself in your own game of Sims. So that was the moment for me. That was enough is enough moment. And I'd love to hear what yours was. We all have at least one moment. That was one. And then there were others. And it literally becomes the foundation to the new house that you're building, because it's one awakening, and then it's another awakening, and then it's another and another and another, and before you know it, you're building a home, you're building some kind of foundation for your life that one day you will be really proud of, especially if you're keeping that one day in mind and you're building it backwards. So just because you have an idea does not mean you gotta go and run and start building it. You need to have a plan. Nothing is built without a plan. The house that you live in was not built just by fluke. They had a plan in place and in order, and then as they went, some things perhaps got tweaked and changed, and like, oh yeah, let's not do this, let's do this instead. It's going to be as simple as changing the nails or the screws that were being used. Now, one of my favorite questions is, what did you lose on your journey that you didn't expect to grieve? And I asked that question because most people don't think about it, of the things that they lose, that they don't grieve. But I'm not most people. I'm a person who has thought about all the different types of things that I have lost and that I didn't even expect to grieve. Going as far back as when I was a little girl, must have been 7 or 8 years old. And I had this white watch. And I'll share an interesting experience with you that very few people had the pleasure of hearing, and this is where, regardless whether it actually was an experience or whether it was my mind that imagined it, to me it was a real experience. And this is what I want you to understand, is that just because somebody doesn't understand your experience, what you went through, or can't really relate, doesn't agree with it, does not make it less true. So for me, I had this white watch. It was leather, and it had a spider as one of what is it called? The pointing. I haven't had a watch in so long. I don't even know what you call them anymore. The one that points to the hour, or whichever one is longer, had a spider on it. Regardless, I had a spider moving around inside. Arms, I think they're called. And so I remember it went missing, and I know I left it on the table and I couldn't find it. I looked everywhere for it. And it's white. You can really clearly see it. It stands out. And I used to talk to, like, back then I called them gnomes. So I used to talk to gnomes, but essentially they're spirits, they're energies, and they can appear to our eye in the way that we see them. And because I was seeing and imagining how I would see these spirits, these energies as gnomes, and I've spent time with my friends back in Russia, like there were so many different ways how we learned. And there was no internet. I didn't even know how we got, either we came up with this stuff or heard from a grapevine from somewhere, but we had different ways of how to communicate with the other side without having to use a Ouija board. And yes, of course, there was a Ouija board. So, but the ones that we like the most is with pencils. I don't know if any of you have tried. I haven't tried it in so long now. I'm like talking about it. Maybe I should go and talk to and practice this with my daughter just to feel the like the the proof and the validation of energy beyond ourselves, beyond our world. So it'd be pencils that we would hold by the corners. So three pencils, one this way, one this way, one this way, and then the other person does the same thing. And literally, it's yes, no, maybe answers. And I can't remember which direction it goes, because so if the pencils, because they're touching the tips, if they bend this way, kind of like makes a zigzag, pointing one direction means yes, the other direction means no, and then inward or outward, I think means maybe, regardless, I don't remember. So I used to do that, and I did that with my friend where I asked, this gnome, do you have my watch? And it said yes. And I asked if I can have it back, please. It said maybe. And the maybe means, okay, well, what do you want from me? And I honestly can't remember, but it was something that it asked for, but my memory is just focused on the watch, right? And whatever it was, I remember then stepping out of the room because it asked, oh, that's what it was. You want me to step out of the room so you can leave it there for me. And I did. I stepped out of the room and went back in, and my watch was on a table. And honestly, I don't remember. Part of me is like questioning, was it the same day? Was it a different day? Right? As the brain, the mind, the memories will play tricks on us. But I do remember then finding my watch on the table and knowing that the gnome left it for me. Now, was it a gnome? I don't know. I don't have all the answers, nor do I want to have all the answers. Because imagine if I had all the answers, how many people would really be lining up to have the answers to all of their questions? Because there's so many answers that simply can't even be answered now. Or maybe with the power of AI, they can be. So for me, it was, I guess what I'm saying with this is this new thing that I realized that I have, now I think I'm going to be partially, I've grieved, but now recognizing it more with different understanding, different words, different language is that connection with the other side that I felt so naturally, having lost that on my journey. And I know the biggest part was, of course, growing up and maturing, but also coming to Canada and the way that we came to Canada, which is a story for another time, but it involves 2 border crossings. Not legally. But anyways, I'm a citizen. I have been for many, many years. And that's what I would say, that I've grieved in ways, but didn't fully grieve. And now I will find myself probably not so much so grieving, but playing around with it again. There were different ways of how there was this exercise that you can do where you just put your hands like close and you just imagine a ball there, and you keep doing it. Some people, they feel it really quickly right away, and sometimes it takes a minute. And just change your hands a little bit, like, see, I can start to feel like, yeah, I can feel like there's like a ball in my hand. And even though there's not, but I feel like 2 opposite sides of the batteries is how I would say, or magnets, not batteries. So, and this is how you practice and you play around with energy and your own energy, and it's not just limited to your hands. And I used to do those kind of things. I remember even lifting a friend with all those things that you've seen in scary movies, the ones that tell you, oh, don't do this, the seance, all that kind of shit. Been there, have done that. And I'm still here. I don't think I've done the Bloody Mary, but I do remember some kind of similar approach, but I can't remember. I think it was Jack, the name Jack. And you'd go in a dark bathroom and you ask it for something, and then you leave a gift and it gives you what you want. And for me, it was a bicycle. I ended up getting that bicycle in a month or so, which was on my birthday, my 13th birthday, which unfortunately I didn't get to ride for too long because we ended up leaving. I turned 13 in May and we ended up leaving, I believe it was November or October. I can't remember how long. Anyways, but yeah. So also saying that some of you might recognize, as you literally just watched me go through, I realized I was kind of grieving something. And at the same time, it's like, hey, I don't need to grieve it. I can give it. Like I can do it. I can practice it if I really want to. So maybe I will go and try that pencil trick with my daughter and trip her out. Maybe get into like with some friends who want to lift a body with just two fingers. And we've been there, done it, and it's fun. It feels like you are in Stranger Things. That's what it feels like. So the next question that I have for myself is, what is getting my shit together actually look like for me now in real life and not the highlight reel? So that is a loaded question, isn't it? I like to ask loaded questions, but it's literally waking up when I say I'm going to wake up, do the things that I say I'm going to do, sticking to my word, working on my integrity, which means not lying to myself, which means that if I say I'm going to do something, I do it, or if not now, then when? Right? Then it gets scheduled and gets moved. That when I say I'm going to show up somewhere, I'm going to show up somewhere. When I say, like right now for this podcast, when I say I'm going to do a live episode, even if it means coming by myself, I will be here and I will do it. And I miss this as well. I do the card readings in my group and I love that. But this way is a little bit different. If I ask these questions of myself in a month, I might have different responses because I will pull from different parts of my life that will come through in that particular time and moment. So for me, getting my shit together looks just like getting up, having a to-do list. And on that to-do list, I have the B list where I chill and relax and not always like go, 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 go and get things done. But I live my life with the end in mind, where if I want to sit down, you know, the vision I keep talking about of myself in the rocking chair as a 111-year-old, happy, joyful woman rocking back and forth. I'm the one that made that chair with my husband. He's the one that built it, and I'm the one that sanded it and stained it and made it ours. Like, if that's what that is, then how do I get there? And then that's just the small part of it. And then what about everything else? When it comes to making choices and making decisions on to do something and not to do something, if it's on my list, there are questions. There's a process that I take myself through to get me to do it or not. Because I do have a tendency I'm a big dreamer. And I dream really big sometimes, and I have lots of plans, lots of ideas, lots of things that I could do and experience, but one of me and one day at a time. So checking it against myself in ways of, today, tomorrow. Do or don't do at all. Might have been just a great idea, but perhaps it's not even for me. Perhaps it's just meant to be going through me, and more so as a test of how focused are you, Yana? Do you really want this? Or do you want to try something different? Oh, you can try this, you can try this. But I'll tell you, since I'm admittedly will say I do have ADHD, and quite a few women that I work with also have ADHD, you can either let it break you or make you. It's just like your attitude. It's not much different. When you start to get your attitude in check and in control, and that's how you get your shit together. Just because I'm triggered does not mean I gotta respond or react. I can take the time to respond. So how would that 111-year-old Yana remember? How does she remember responding in this particular challenge? How did she deal with it? What were her options? If she dealt with it this way, where did it lead her? If she did it this way, where did that lead her? Who did she become if she made this choice? If she made this choice. And you know what? It makes it easier to make a choice when you're actually doing it consciously and not just living or dealing with the aftershock. Now, for that woman that's listening right now who's feeling stuck, feeling stuck in your dreaming and your doubting and your overthinking, your overanalyzing phase, or perhaps you're like me where you found yourself stuck in analysis by paralysis, where you have so many options and opportunities and things that you can do and you just can't pick. It's like a kid in the ice cream store that you can only have one small scoop. Which one will it be? And there's all the possible ice creams that you as that kid love that are now in front of you, and you can only have one. What would it be? Now, I want you to also remember that it's one ice cream today. Tomorrow you can have another one. Tomorrow after that, the following tomorrow and the following tomorrow you can have another one. You can have as many as you want. But you, in that process, will find your favorite ice cream. You will find the one that you keep going back to. You want to eat that one. In your life, you're going to try out so many different things. And if you are stuck in that analysis of paralysis, and this is where, like, what would I say to you to help you finally move that you're not ready to hear? What you're not ready to hear is, what I wasn't ready to hear is, it's great to be multi-talented and be good at so many things. It's really great. It's amazing. But you cannot do it all, and you cannot be the best at all of these things. You got to pick one thing that you're really good at and do that one thing. That one thing great and amazing. And everything else, either let it go or delegate it to somebody else. And I'm primarily talking about you chasing your truth, right? Your way of living, your way of being, your way of leaving a mark on this world. Who you want to be. The biggest part of who you want to be at its core is going to be your attitude. I said it in the beginning and I'll say it again. Your attitude will determine your future. If you show me your friends, through their attitude, I will tell you what their future will be, what your future will be, if you keep staying and hanging out with those friends. And similar concept can apply to the people you work with, whether they're co-workers or your employees or employer or your clients, your customers. If they are like negative, how long will it take before you become negative? I shared one example with you where I caught myself being scared of driving between two of these transport trucks because that fear was shared with me. And somehow I took that in. Now imagine spending time with people who are riddled with fear. How long will it be before you will be riddled with fear? Not very long, actually, to be quite honest. Just as long as it takes to change a habit. 30 days. Maybe even less. Depending on the habit. Depending on whose energy is stronger, yours or hers. Who's going to win. I like this example of, your friend is driving the car and you're sitting in the passenger seat. Or vice versa. Let's say you're driving and your friend is a passenger and your friend is really, really, really nervous and is scared that you're going to get in an accident. But you're not. Who's going to win? Whose energy is going to win? Think about it. This is what it comes down to. We talk about it as energy, but energy is attitude. It's based on your thoughts, beliefs, your responses, the messages that you're carrying. All of that is what makes your attitude poor or rich. The choice is yours. You do have an attitude. Everyone has an attitude. But do you have an attitude problem? Some people will tell you, if people tell you something and you get triggered, chances are it's because part of it is true and now you've been caught and you don't want to be caught. So you will fight for what you believe and want to be the truth, but perhaps you're not there yet. And that's okay. I'm here to tell you things that you might not be ready to hear, but you got to hear them, because if I would be doing you this service, holding things back that I feel that need to be said. And of course, I don't have no agenda. I don't have no plans. The only thing that I have in front of me are the questions that I like to ask. So I know it's very clear questions. And I always go to the same questions time and time again, one after the other. But other than that, everything comes through as it comes through. That's why you'll even see me not directly looking in the camera, but looking around, because it's almost like I'm looking for a memory or for the words or for something that I'm hearing, and I'm putting it into the words and the examples that you can understand, that you can relate to. So if you are in that phase where you have so many different things that you want to do, you have so many creative ideas, great. Absolutely amazing. I want you to pick one, maybe two, and shelf the rest. And trust me, I know it is easier said than done, especially for me, it had been. But otherwise, if you keep trying new things over and over again before allowing for the first thing to actually even a chance to prove to you that it can work, it's like if you had the opportunity, obviously it's a weird example that comes to mind, but when you were a little kid, you learned how to walk. But what if you were a different creature and you had the opportunity to learn how to fly or how to hop before you learn how to walk? And you try to do all of these things at once. How long will it take you to get to become an expert in each one of these things? It'll take you 3 times as long, because 3 different things that you're focusing on doing, and you're spending time and energy in all 3 different things. Now, I want to make a joke. Don't take it personally, but if you focus on one and you leave the middle finger, but if you focus just on one, and one great thing that you want to focus on doing and trying it out until it works, how likely and how much more quickly will you get to that one thing versus 3? Another example. Okay, this is another example that I love that really honed it in for me with, multi-talented kind of approach. And I still do many things even in one day. But that's how I find balance, because balance doesn't exist. If anybody tells you that there's such a thing that you can achieve complete and total balance in your life and you feel completely balanced 100% of the time, they're lying. And just like if anybody comes and tells you that they have their shit together, they're lying. Nobody has their shit together. Nobody. And the honest truth is that no matter what, every single person is getting their shit together. Even if for a period of time, which we all experience, we feel like we've gotten our shit together and we're good, that what happens is that Oh, you're good? Okay. Can I offer you another little suggestion? Here's an opportunity for you to grow and evolve and learn something new. And you're going to be throwing a stick in your tire, right? Or maybe somebody will just stop your bike altogether, depending on how you're going to be feeling that you're facing with this new challenge, this new opportunity for you. And then you do with it what you will. Now, multi-talented, great. Shelving all these other things, yes, doesn't mean that you never go back to them. It just means you focus on this one thing. And the example is this. If you have, you just moved into a new house and it has so many trees in the backyard that you don't even have a backyard. It's literally like a forest in your backyard. And you want to have a nice backyard. You want to have the space. Now, you have a couple of options. Option number one, you go and you can only go out there and you hit 5 times. You have the axe and you can go out there and you hit 5 trees 5 times. You have 5 hits, right? Option number one, you go and you hit 5 different trees 5 times. Or 5 hits on 1 tree. Which one do you think will bring you closer and faster to having your forest all gone and have the backyard? Now, the reality is that both will get you there, but you will see the results much quicker when you focus on 1 tree at a time and you see it gone versus 5 at a time and you see them gone. It's similar to small little wins every day that rebuild your confidence. Do this one thing today that you will have confidence from tomorrow. Do another thing tomorrow that you will have confidence for another tomorrow and another tomorrow. And you'll have a lot of tomorrows. But all of them you're going to be doing today. Really, if you want to feel proud of yourself and you want to feel accomplished of yourself, you focus on the one thing until it's done. Whether you achieve it, whether you decide, no, that ain't for me. I don't want to do that. Next. And you do that. That's how you literally get your shit together and achieve and reach that life that you want to reach by doing the things that you want to and sometimes you don't want to do consistently over and over and over again. Consistency will always win and surpass when you feel like it. Right? If you were in a race with yourself, one version of you was just consistent, did it no matter how she felt, and the other one only relied on how she feels and did things only when she felt like it. Which version of you, not only would you prefer, but do you see yourself living the life that she's meant to live and being happy and joyful? Now, the other option I also want to mention when it comes to that forest in the backyard that you want to have back, the third option is you can delegate it. You can have somebody else do it. There's so many things that you can now delegate and have somebody else do, even in especially in your business. Yeah, I mean, yes, you can have somebody come and wash your dishes every day. I mean, you can even get your kids to do it and you're no longer doing it, but they're getting done. There's ways around the things that you want to have and experience in your life. You just need to figure that out and then go and do it. So the bonus question that I'd like to ask is, what part of myself am I finally allowing to exist without trying to fix, hide, or prove it anymore? And it's a part of me that is weird, that says things that some people would find odd, that wouldn't understand. Literally everything you just witnessed and watched in this whole entire episode. That's what I would say. And at the same time, how I show up here is how I show up in real life as well. If I feel inspired by something, I will talk in this way. those of you that know me, you know this is how I show up. I don't have any particular voice or character that I become when I do a podcast. I am who I say I am. And I don't remember the rest of the song, but Eminem sings it. Anyways, and that's it. That's what I would say, that I am now allowing to exist without trying to fix, hide, or prove it to anyone. This is one of the biggest reasons why I prefer live over recorded. I mean, even if recorded, I still wouldn't go and edit. That's why I prefer to, this is it. I'm not going to go and edit. I'm not going to go and fix this content and take any clips out or take anything out. Oh, it's like, oh, I shouldn't have said that. I shouldn't have said that. Well, if I shouldn't have said it, I shouldn't have said it. And I wouldn't have said it. If I said it for a reason and for a season, because people will get over it. And if they don't, that's a them problem, not a me problem. That's something that they have to live with. And I don't even know about it. Just like I don't know what buttons I might have pushed and triggered within you, or somebody else that you know or that you love that might have pushed some buttons and triggered you and you react in a certain way. I don't know any of them. And at the same time, I'm not here living for you. I'm here for you, but I'm not living for you. I'm living for me and for my family. And I've also learned, and this is where I really let go of the approval of my parents, and that was during my growth, obviously growth and evolution. This is what we're doing throughout our whole entire journey. But through my darkest time, where I realized that the family that we're born into is the family we're born into. But then there's the family that we choose, which is my husband and our kids. And this is a priority. That anyone else does not matter. And it's not personal. No. It's how I believe we're all meant to be living. That you choose your person. They become your priority. And your family becomes your priority. And I want that for my kids. I want my kids to have their partners be their primary focus. And themselves. And then the parents. And then the grandparents. And then, friends and whatnot. But your family that you choose to live with is the one you're going to be living with for the rest of your life. And for those of you who perhaps experience a little trigger with that, then I invite you to look into that and understand why that is. And what can you do about it? Do not expect the world to bow down to you. Do not expect the world to change for you. For you must change yourself, and then the world will change as you change yourself. Because you, quite honestly, you start looking at yourself differently. And when you look at yourself differently, you look at the world differently. All of a sudden, you will have a clear understanding of what's allowed, what's not allowed. What boundaries need to be set in place and need to be reminded. Maybe even removed, who knows? Maybe you had way too many boundaries in place and you were miserable and now you need to remove some of them. That's possible as well. Not everyone needs to add boundaries. Some people do need to remove some boundaries because they no longer serve a purpose. And put the ones in place that do serve a purpose for you. You are living for you. You're born alone, you die alone. But you're still not alone. You're surrounded by other people. But you walk through that door by yourself and you walk back through that door by yourself. Not many people have anybody walking with them and holding their hand as they walk through that veil between life and death. Anyways, dark ending, eh? So that's how I show up. This is who I am. Some like it, some don't. And that's okay. it's going to be like that. There's going to be people who agree. There's going to be people who disagree. There's people who see the light. There's people who see the darkness. And some will shift, some won't. It's a very unique and interesting time to live. And you, as the soul, you chose to live in this particular timeline with the people that you have in your life now. And ask yourself why. And within that, perhaps you will find and discover your purpose and something that will perhaps bring you beyond your purpose and allow you to experience such a profound sense of fulfillment that you can't even put into words. So thank you, everybody. I appreciate you being here and tuning in and listening. I will hopefully be back next week with a guest speaker for the Your Journey of Becoming episode on Thursday at 11:45 a.m. Eastern Time, live on my personal Facebook page, and then uploaded onto my podcast. So this one will be going live on Saturday, since, kind of figured, why not? Since the one I was supposed to have today was going to be going live on Saturday. Other than that, thank you, everyone. I appreciate each and every one of you. Looking forward to seeing what came up for you, your biggest takeaways from this whole entire episode, and then what action will you take with your takeaway? Just having a realization and inspiration is not enough. You gotta take action to solidify, to make that come to fruition. So we'll see each other next time. Have an amazing the rest of your day and week. Bye.